Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Better Science, Better Health podcast with Gwen and Petra.
Hi, Gwen.
Hi.
Our last podcast that we released was one where Penn and Duane talk about innovation in oncology.
Yep.
Very early on in that podcast, they are talking about the Orphan Cures Act. What kind of beast is that?
Okay, well, Orphan Cures Act, it's a bill. It's part of the Inflation Reduction Act. But I'm going to back up a second and just say what an orphan disease is. And what an orphan disease basically just means that there's fewer than 200,000 people in the US, for example, that would have a certain type of disease. And the reason that they're called orphan diseases is because they were pretty much abandoned by venture capitalists and manufacturers that make drugs because it's just way too expensive to create and make a drug for these rare diseases that don't affect that many people considering the size of the US. If you put them all together, rare diseases, there's about 7,000 of them identified. So if you put all that together, that would make it about 25 to 30 million people that they affect in the US and about 300 million people worldwide. You know, when you put them all together, it does add up to affecting a lot of people, but individually, not so much.
Those numbers are slightly different, of course, in the EU, because in the EU, where you say 1 in 200,000, the EU says fewer than 5 in 10,000. But then again, the numbers in the US, it affects 1 in 10 Americans and only 1 in 20 Europeans.
Yeah, and either way, I guess we can put it into an analogy like Netflix. They wouldn't go and make a movie that only 150 people are going to watch. They're going to go for the movie that they're going to reach 20 million, 30 million people, whatever. So I guess from a business sense, that kind of makes sense.
And so let's go back to the Orphan Cures Act then. You already mentioned that it's part of IRA, but what exactly does the Orphan Cures Act do?
Well, they want to keep up incentives for there to be studies and new drugs to come out, new therapies for people that have rare diseases. And so these are more incentives, and there'd be like tax breaks or grants, and especially exclusivity for 7 years. So that just means that if you have this drug, you make the drug or the therapy, that you get complete access, market access for 7 years. Nobody can copy it or come in and say, "Oh, I want to sell it now," or something. It's that. So it gives them full market autonomy.
Yeah, and it goes as much as that FDA or EMA won't approve a similar drug for the same disease until the
Yeah,
exclusivity period is over, right? Yeah.
right.
Great. So we've got that one clarified. Another thing they talk about, and I immediately made an analogy with dinosaurs, is CAR T. But I'm guessing it's not a dinosaur.
No, CAR T, it stands for chimeric antigen receptor T cell.
Wow.
So I know. So chimeric, it means, okay, they take a bunch of stuff from different things and then they put it together to make one new thing. An antigen is like a name tag on a cell, like, "Hi, my name's Bob." And then the receptor is the part of the cell that recognizes things. So they'll recognize, "Oh, okay, that's Bob right over there." And that's kind of how I think of it in my brain. When I was in college, they used to say, "Joe cell, this is Joe cell." And so anything that would come in and out of Joe cell, that's how I remembered it. So,
But so then what exactly does CAR T do?
it's like a salvage cure. What they're doing is they're basically taking your own cells out of your body and they're reprogramming them and they're shoving them back into your body to just only attack the cancer cells. For blood cancers, this is great because they're using your own cells and they're basically doing a facial recognition software update because they're not recognizing that these Bob characters are not good, right? So we got to, and they changed their names, and it's because your own body wasn't recognizing it anymore. So that's why they're pulling out your cells and they're kind of saying, "Okay, we got to learn this new facial recognition software." And then once they do, they go in and then they're trying to teach the other cells that same thing too. So they're only going after the cells that are the cancer cells.
Are there any advantages to this therapy compared to the previous therapy? Because we're talking about blood cancer. So previously, it was a bone marrow transplant, right? So you had to find a donor, and then his healthy cells would be injected into your body, and then it was still a gamble whether your body would accept those cells. So, but now, if I understand
Yeah.
it correctly, with CAR T, it is already your own material, so your body will more easily accept it, and the agents will be trained better.
In the last 50 years, the cancer treatments have come a long way. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
knows about chemotherapy. It kills all the good cells and the bad cells together. So what happens there then is sometimes your body gets overloaded with it. And that's where the bone marrow thing comes in. And your body just can't handle it because your bone marrow is basically your factory of making cells. When you got to have a bone marrow transplant, it's rebuilding the factory. And there is a chance of there being rejection or graft host disease, which is coming from cells that come from a donor. The CAR T has been an amazing therapy.
And could potentially be a better cure than the bone marrow transplant.
It's definitely helpful. That's no doubt.
Okay, another one, GLP-1. I think everybody should know this, but explain what it is.
So yeah, how GLP-1 kind of ties into our whole orphan disease, orphan cures, whatever. I think this is a good bridge here because they come out and they are on label for diabetes. That's what it was approved for by the FDA. And it's great. It's a wonderful drug. It's helping. And then they're like, oh my gosh, these people are losing weight on this drug.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. So then they say, great, now we're going to approve it for weight loss as well. And so that next iteration is what they kind of say for follow-on. So when they do any kind of follow-on research or try and get approved for another indication or another type of disease or condition or something like that. That's awesome. If one drug can affect so many different types of diseases and things and help people, that's great. So that's where policy comes in. So in my head, I think of it like this. Let's pretend you wrote a cookbook and it's like a huge bestseller cookbook. And then you think, I can do 5 more cookbooks off of this cookbook. And then the people come back and they say, okay, yeah, but if you write these other 5 cookbooks, you're not going to get as much money back on your bestseller. So they say, oh, let's just wait until my bestseller is, and then everybody's got it. And then maybe we'll think about it.
Yeah, and that off-label use is basically also looping back to where we started this conversation with the Orphan Cures Act. This loops back to that as well, is that people are incentivized not to create new drugs, but to find new cures with the same drugs.
So now they're going to keep going in to GLP-1s and they think, oh, well, maybe this will help XYZ disease that affects people that have these rare diseases. And that would be great.
Well, I think, Gwen, we've clarified enough for today. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And we love to see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.